Welcome to The Outlet, an OTG production.
And welcome to the NBA Outlet, presented by OTGBasketball.com. We want to thank you for listening, and be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter at OTGBasketball. I'm your host, Parth Goradia, and joining me on this Selection Sunday to recap the NBA week, talk an NCAA and NBA March Madness style bracket, the Chicago Bulls, and just a small sample of games of the week are Nick Fay and a special guest and resident OTG Bulls expert, Mr. Mike Ricci. How you guys doing?
What's up, Parth?
Parth, what's happening, buddy?
Long time no talk, Mike. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Trying to sift through the rubble that has been the 2015-2016 Bulls season. But
yeah, it's been a rough one for your Bulls.
Yeah, but at least you don't have to get stressed out. That's the one good thing being a mediocre team. You don't have to worry about the playoffs.
True that. We'll get into more Bulls talk later, so I want you to hold that thought. But I know you recently just put out an article on OTGBasketball.com, which everyone should go check out, about high school recruiting classes. Do you want to just talk quickly about that, Mike?
Yeah, no. As some people might know on here, and by some people I mean absolutely nobody. I've spent 5 years working in recruiting in college football, and I got to know a lot about Rivals.com. They do they rank each recruit, and they've been doing this since about 2002 in football, 2003 in basketball. And what I did was I went back to 2003 and looked at every recruiting class where they ranked the top 150 recruits in the nation, starting with LeBron and Chris Paul in 2013. And I looked at every player that's kind of played in the NBA, even with like a cup of coffee, since from 2003 to 2011, just to kind of see how accurate the recruiting rankings were at the time in relation to how the players have played today. And it's interesting, some players that might have been ranked recruit in their class never even make it in the NBA, whereas guys like Andre Drummond, Steph Curry, not even ranked in the top 150 in their particular year. So it was a really fun thing to kind of sift through and kind of look at. I wrote a little bit about each class, and I highly recommend checking it out because it's fascinating, especially if you're a big basketball fan. It's worth the time.
Yeah, you can just spend a while looking at those lists.
Spend time looking at the list, not my writing.
It's really interesting to see who kind of like panned out, if they were a number one overall, I guess, recruit coming out of high school, and if they're still a solid NBA player or number one NBA player, that kind of thing. It's funny how those it does not work out. It's not an exact science.
No, it's not an exact science at all. And I knew going into it, because of my experience with football, I knew that the recruiting rankings don't mean anything. But then you look at for instance, I just pulled up a really quick class. B.J. Mullins, or Byron Mullins, went to Ohio State. He was the top ranked recruit in the 2008 class. He's had a decent NBA career. I wouldn't say he's much more than like a role player, but you've got guys like Draymond Green were ranked 122nd in that class. Klay Thompson was ranked 51st. So it's a really interesting look at how. I mean, it kind of speaks to the motivation of guys too. Like Draymond Green, we always knew he had the motivation. He has that drive. That maybe being ranked 122nd ended up helping him in the long run.
Very true.
Yeah, that's fair. And Mike, what years do you have this? What year is the first draft class or the first recruiting class?
The first draft class for Rivals.com was in 2003, and that was the year LeBron came out. The last class that I looked at was the 2011 class, because that was the last class where everybody in the class has graduated from college, unless there may have been like one or two guys that had like the medical redshirt for the 6th year or whatever. But there are still a few guys that are in college basketball now that were recruited in 2012. So I decided to make the cutoff 2011.
All right, that's good. So if you guys want to check out Mike's rankings or Mike's article, be sure to check that out on otgbasketball.com. Let's move on right to the podcast. Mike,
Yes,
I
sir.
want you to start out with your weekly recap. What stood out to you in this past NBA week?
Well, here's the thing. I think sometimes it's okay to be a bad NBA team. It's okay to be a bad NBA team if you're kind of building towards something. I live in Minneapolis. I follow the Minnesota Timberwolves. I understand that they weren't expected to be a good team this year. They weren't expected to make the playoffs, and they've been bad, as advertised. Unfortunately, it's starting to spill into the off the court. In the off-the-court world, the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to be the target of a class action lawsuit over the way that they sell their tickets. They use a ticket account called Flash Seats, or a ticket company called Flash Seats, so that none of the tickets sold for Minnesota Timberwolves games are actually paper seats. These are they're all digital. You have to use your credit card, use your driver's license, use your cell phone to kind of get into the building. And if you want to resell your tickets, if you're a season ticket holder, you have to sell to other people through this Flash Seats application. Now, the problem is they've been implementing a price bottom, if that makes sense. And if you have a ticket that's $200, you can't sell it below X amount of dollars. So, if you're just trying to make some money back, it's not allowing you to do that. And some season ticket holders have been, talking about how this is unfair. And from what I understand, here are the plaintiffs' big complaints. If you guys can bear with me for 1 second, I'm going to try and keep it as unlegal mumbo jumbo as possible. But when the Timberwolves went to the system, the ticket holders were never really informed that there was going to be a different ticketing system before the season tickets were sold. The system causes economic harm because of the difficulty in reselling tickets on the secondary market, which includes fees charged by the Wolves and the buyer and seller for secondary sales. They're saying that the harm has been exacerbated by a new change that now sees the Wolves unilaterally setting a minimum ticket price for secondary sales instead of letting the market set the price, which makes resale difficult for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, Golden State Warriors do a very similar thing, but it's not hard to reach that minimum level if you're trying to sell Warriors tickets. But the Timberwolves are bad, and it's affecting their fan base. And now they're selling them. They're suing them. So that's my story.
That is not a good look for the Timberwolves, especially because they should be trying to get as many fans as they can inside of the arena. You know what I mean? Try to build up the fan base, getting them ready for the future. They shouldn't be setting minimums.
Well, yeah, exactly. They're playing to like half-empty Target centers every single night, and it's not a good look for a team that has maybe the best young nucleus in the NBA. I mean, you want to have your fans getting in there. Here's the thing about Minnesota: it's a hockey state, and in the wintertime, if you're trying to fight the Minnesota Wild for fans, you're more than likely to lose unless you're putting a playoff caliber team, out there every single night. And the Timberwolves aren't doing that now, so you should make it easy and affordable for your players to get out there, and that's really been the problem this year. And now they're talking about bringing Sam Mitchell back, and I know that Sam Mitchell has been a very negative part of the Timberwolves season. That the fans are starting to turn on Mitchell. They don't want to see him back, but Glenn Taylor is a loyalist fault. And I think between the ticket sales, with this Flash Seats lawsuit and Sam Mitchell, you're hurting your fans long term.
Yeah. And you want to build it up, like you said, with the young nucleus you have, so not a good look.
What do you think will happen with the lawsuit? Do you know? Do you have any details on that?
I'm not a lawyer. I've never taken a law class, but I've done some research, and they've talked to some local people. The Star Tribune and the Pioneer Press, two of the local newspapers, have talked to people who have a legal mind here in the Twin Cities, and the consensus seems to be that the Timberwolves are probably going to end up having, well, they have 30 days from when the lawsuit was submitted, and I think that was about a week, 10 days ago, something like that. And I believe that they're going to have 30 days to respond to it. And in all likelihood, it sounds like the Timberwolves are going to have to settle and not take this to court because they can lose a lot more money if they go to court. The Timberwolves are probably going to end up losing 8 figures on this. I don't know if I've seen the number. I've seen 8 figures floated out there. I don't know if that means $10 million. I don't know, $99 million. But they're going to lose a substantial amount of money because of this. And it's just bad PR for a team that really needs it and shouldn't need it considering all the young talent they have.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a very fun situation to be in for either party, really.
Yeah, I don't think so. And the season's definitely not gone the way that they wanted to. Like I said, I don't think they ever expected to have a great season, but I don't think they expected to make the playoffs. I think they expected to be a little bit more competitive in their games. At this point in the season, I think they were hoping that Kevin Garnett would play in more games. I think they were hoping that they'd see more growth out of Andrew Wiggins. There's nothing to complain about with Karl Anthony Towns, but it's kind of been an odd season from hell for the team that lost Flip Saunders in October, right before the season began. So hopefully they can get it kind of straightened out and this isn't that big of a PR disaster for the team. And hopefully they keep losing some games here. Stay competitive, lose some games, get another high draft pick, and then get back at it next year with a second-year Karl Anthony Towns and a third-year Andrew Wiggins. Maybe make a run for the playoffs next year. Who knows? Maybe they wise up and they decide to get rid of Sam Mitchell. Thibodeau's out there. I know a lot of fans here in Minnesota really want to see Tom Thibodeau, even though I'd be a little apprehensive about bringing in a guy that will play your best players 44 minutes a night like he did with the Bulls. I don't want to see the wheels fall off of Karl Anthony Towns too early.
That's a good point. You don't want to run your young players into the ground.
Mike, that was one of the best weekly recaps we've ever had on the NBA outlet, and I'm going to try and fail to match that with mine. But a couple hours ago, the NBA referees on Twitter posted a message, or posted a message, and it said the NBRA condemns the reduction of Dennis Weidman's suspension even as his victim struggles to recover from his injuries. So I was like, Dennis Weidman, who is this guy? Doesn't sound like an NBA player. So I looked into it, and Dennis Weidman is a hockey player, and he plays defense for the Calgary Flames in the NHL. And so I was trying to figure out what this was about. And I saw a video. This actually happened sometime in January. He gets hit on the boards, hits his head, gets up, and then immediately goes after a referee and basically blindsides him and kind of hip checks him into the wall, or cross checks him into the wall. And now the referee has a concussion and is out the remainder of the NHL season. And the NHL suspended Weidman for 20 games, which I believe is in their CBA. And then through arbitration, that suspension is now down to 10 games. So the NBA refs are basically putting out this message supporting the NHL refs. My question to you guys is, what do you think would happen if an NBA player, if he didn't get a call, physically went after an NBA official? I haven't read the CBA to know if a certain amount of game suspension is already written in there, but what do you think would happen and what do you think should happen?
I feel like if you make contact with a referee, you automatically get suspended. I think in the NBA, I want to say 2 games, but I'm not 100% sure. I feel like if they went after a ref, they'd probably get suspended for a quarter of the season, if not more.
Yeah, I don't know how long they would suspend it for. If they make contact with a referee, if it was as blatant and as ugly and as violent as to hit Weidman put on Don Henderson is the linesman's name. if it was that bad in the NBA, you know, I'm sure you'd see similar to like what Ron Artest got for the Palace, the Malice in the Palace back in 2005. Um, my personal favorite part about this story is that so he had his suspension cut from 20 games to 10, but he's already sat out 19.
That's crazy. I guess he probably gets some money back for the games then, maybe.
Yeah, he does.
Or does he get 8 free games now, so he can like get suspended for 8 games, and like you know it's just a freebie now.
Get out of jail free
Like
card.
have it store credit.
But yeah, I know he does get his money back according to the ESPN article that we both just read, but I'm with Mike on this. I think condoning any sort of violence against referees is sending a terrible message to basically anyone that watches, youth players, college players, that if you aren't suspended for the rest of the year or a majority of the season, it's just sending the wrong message. Like, you should have to lose a lot of money if you do something that violent to someone who's not looking, someone who's not part of the action in a sense. It's just you can't condone that.
Now I remember when this happened. Now I live in Minnesota, which is a huge hockey state. It's the state of hockey, but I'm not nearly the the big hockey fan that I should be, which is kind of a sin here in the state of Minnesota. But I remember reading that Whiteman was, by all accounts, a really good guy. People liked him. He had never really been a big troublemaker. Now, I could be wrong. I could be remembering this incorrectly. But being genuinely surprised that he had hit this referee when he hit him. And, a concussion was thrown out there, but he didn't realize what he was doing. So the NHL is just trying to kind of push this under the rug. Like, let's really, they should have done this 9 games ago before his suspension reached 19 games. But it's something the NBA doesn't have to worry about, because the NBA doesn't really have to worry about head injuries as a major part of the game the way the NFL, the NHL has to. So it's almost apples to oranges, I'd say.
So for my weekly recap, I want to shout out the Charlotte Hornets. This is a team I didn't rank too high going into the season, but they really played well. They're currently on a 7-game win streak, and I'm not mistaken, that's the longest win streak currently in the NBA. And they're in the 5th spot in the East, half a game behind Miami, a game and a half behind Boston. And they've really changed the style they play this season. You guys think the Hornets are a real threat in the East?
Personally, I don't, but that doesn't bring down what they've been doing this season. I think it's impressive. I know we talked about in the preview podcast that they might be going in the wrong direction just because Jordan is a stickler for winning, and he kind of like they're not. I don't think they're a threat. They're probably a mediocre team in the East. Like they were in the 3rd spot early in the season, and then fell out of the playoffs, and now we're moving back up. But they could just as easily fall out again. So I'm not a believer in them as a real contender, but that doesn't negate the fact that they've been a solid team this season.
Do you think they could? Sorry, Mike. Do you think they could push somebody in the second round, 6 games or more, or it would be easy work for one of the top teams in the East?
I think they're a first round out. Would it be easy? I don't think so. I think it'd probably go 5 or 6 depending on who they play. I don't think it's a 7-game series with any of the teams that they would play, but I mean, you never know. Injuries happen. There's still a good amount of season left. Things might change, but that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, are they for real? I mean, they're not going to win an NBA title this year. They're not going to win the East this year. But do I think there's legitimacy with them being the 5th best team in the conference or the 4th best team in the conference? Yeah, I can buy that this year. I think the fact that Jordan plays such a role with the team as an owner, I think it's the exact opposite when you played. Like your expectations are completely tempered when you know that he has a hand in picking the players. And I think they're a fine team. I think we're still probably a year or two away from seeing them make any sort of long run. You still need like a centerpiece for the team, but you know, how is that any different than Atlanta or Indiana or Detroit? I guess Detroit maybe has Andre Drummond, but yeah, I think they're for real, but that for realness kind of has an expiration date, and that's part of the first round.
Yeah, I think they possibly maybe could get past the first round, but it would, like Bart said, it'd probably be some injuries or something like that. Second round, I don't see much happening. But it's really been a nice thing. They open up the floor, allow Kemba Walker to work a lot more, and Nicholas Batum's been great for them.
Yeah, do you think Nick Batum gets a max? I think he's a free agent this summer. He's got to, right? There's so many teams with money.
I think that I would personally want the Nets to get him. I remember we looked at the advanced stats on a previous episode, and you saw that he was a playmaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's an all-around three. I think he'd help. He would fill a lot of holes for a lot of teams.
Mm-hmm. He'll be a hot commodity this offseason.
You say you want the Nets to get him, and I cringe at the thought because.
I mean, I don't think it'll happen, but that'd be a player I would want to target.
But even if they did, like, how much better does that make? I mean, it more speaks volumes to how bad the Nets have handled their situation than I had in the first round picks for some time now, and just being a bad team. But that's a whole other conversation. At the same time, I think Batum's definitely worthy of a maximum extension this year. So it'll be interesting to see if anything's going to try and get him away from Charlotte, who can offer him the most money, but I think that's buried below. Is LeBron going to be a free agent, or Kevin Durant, or any other free agent story? But I mean, I think that's going to be potentially more likely to happen than LeBron leaving Cleveland or Durant leaving Oklahoma City. So it might end up being the top free agent.
Yeah, he could definitely be one of them, especially on the wing. I mean, I could see Durant leaving, but I don't think LeBron. I think it's just been a lot of talk, but that's for another episode.
And I'm the exact opposite. I think LeBron leaves before Durant.
I don't know. I think LeBron knows what that would kind of do to his legacy.
Yeah, he doesn't want that PR nightmare again.
Yeah, that would be pretty terrible. I don't think you can recover from that.
I think it might be in his best interest to leave, but I think in terms of like PR and his marketability, I think if he leaves, it's permanently down.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not a good look. He's made all this fuss about going back to Cleveland. He wants to win one for Cleveland, and then he just leaves after 2 years.
With that said, LeBron, please come back to Miami. Please. We need you.
I want to see that too. I want to see him go back to Miami. There wasn't a team or a player I disliked more at the time than when LeBron was playing in Miami. But like the idea and the narrative of him leaving Cleveland again, like getting back together with your ex-girlfriend only to leave her again for the same girl you cheated on her with, like 5 years.
It's so good. The story is so good.
Yes. Give it to me, please. Let's make it happen. Let's just send Cleveland sports into another 30 years of misery. I don't hate Cleveland, but I think it's interesting. I think interesting is so good. Just be interesting. And LeBron leaving to go to Miami again would be, God, you'd make like 30 for 30s for days about that.
Oh, it'd be so good, man. It'd be incredible for TV. Incredible for TV, incredible for radio. Media would go wild. ESPN would bring back the Heat Index back into their homepage. It would be awesome. I would personally, as a Miami Heat fan, I would love it. I want to be hated again. People hate me, please.
You're in Virginia, right?
I am in Virginia.
And that's near Washington, D.C.?
That is near Washington, D.C.
What's your justification for being a Heat fan?
My justification, well, early in the 2000s, I didn't really have a basketball team that I rooted for. My dad was a big Michael Jordan fan. My dad's a complete front runner. He loves Steph Curry right now. But he was a big Jordan fan, so I was a Jordan fan back then. When Jordan retired, my dad kind of stopped watching NBA basketball. We watched Phil's Lakers with Kobe and Shaq. Didn't really get into the Lakers, and then D-Wade came into the league. And my cousin at the time was going to Michigan State, so he was a Detroit Pistons fan. And Detroit was really good back then, and Miami was like coming up. So that first rookie year with Wade, I fell in love with the Heat team in the playoffs in the second round against the Pacers. So that's my justification. I've just been a D-Wade fan and stuck with the Heat since.
Okay. I'm just making
sure. Was that good enough?
LeBron went over.
Was that good enough for you, Mike?
Hey. I'm not here to judge you. In like 20 minutes, we're going to talk about how trashy my team is and like how I'm different from the NBA entirely. So, I was just curious. I'm curious.
No, man, I understand that. It's good that that's out there. I'm close to DC, but I could care less about the Wizards. Unless they hire me, then I would be 100% Washington Wizards all the time. That's for any team, by the way. If you hire me, I am yours. You have my devotion.
What if LeBron goes to Miami and the Cavaliers want to hire you then?
Man, I got to take any job if I can get into that industry, to be quite honest.
I was a finalist for a job in the NBA with a team that I could not see myself actually being a fan for, so I don't I'll leave it at that.
I will say that I am an NBA fan before I am a Miami Heat fan. So it wouldn't be that difficult for me to root against the Heat if I had to. But that's a childish thing. You got to grow up sometime, right?
Yeah, I think in the NBA it's almost easier to be an NBA fan sometimes. And like I feel like in the NFL, for example, like I like the Packers and I hate everybody else, but in the NBA I like the Nets and I can enjoy watching a lot of other teams.
Right. I mean, you don't have 50 players that you have to know. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to know an offensive line. You can know the first 7 or 8, and that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
You know what they look like. You see them all the time. You kind of know who they are as a person for the most part, or the person that they perceive themselves to be, or we perceive them to be. But I think it's easier to be an NBA fan. I'm with you.
And there's so many games.
I've been a Bulls fan my entire life. Like the first season I remember actually watching NBA with my dad would have been the 89-90 season, just to, date myself a little bit. But like the most fun I've had watching the NBA are the Warriors this year. Like that's probably my favorite team. It's probably not because there's the the 95-96 Bulls, all those Jordan teams, but like I completely get like just throwing out any allegiance to any team and just cheering for like this year's Warriors. Why not?
It's entertainment at the end of the day, and they are a very entertaining team. Even though I personally enjoyed what the We Believe Warriors did in 2007, that playoff series. I remember going to high school late so many days because I would stay up and watch those games in the playoffs. That was one of the best times I've ever had watching basketball. Shout out to the Dubs, man.
Especially to your point with actually forget that point. I just realized it made no sense. I apologize.
No worries.
I was gonna say with daylight savings time this week, there's talk about 11 states that are just gonna eliminate it altogether. For guys on the East Coast, guys in the Central Time Zone, like we just need to have the Warriors games on early. We need the Western Coast, the West Conference games on early. So we're not missing school. We're not like late to work. We're not dragging ass the next day. Like it's.
Yeah, it is. Like sometimes you don't get done watching the NBA sometimes on the East Coast till like 1 a.m., 1:30. When they have those like crazy free throw contests, and with Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan, it just drags. It gets so late.
All right, guys, I've made a NBA style or NCAA style NBA bracket. So we got the top 16 records in the league and seeded them 1 through 16, and we're gonna go through them, see who would win a 1-game sort of playoff in a sense, just like the NCAA tournament. So in homage to March Madness, which starts I think this Thursday. That's when the actual the real game start.
If you want to talk about playing games start Tuesday and Wednesday, but yeah, the real tournament.
The real tournament starts on Thursday. All right, so
at 11:08 Central Time.
You are ready for this, Mike?
Of course. This is how it goes.
March Madness is the only time I watched college basketball. I can't watch college other than that, but it is really exciting. Last year I remember I watched at least a little bit of every single game. We'll not do that this year. Do not have that kind of time. But let's get into an NBA-style bracket. Our first matchup, the 1-seeded Warriors against the 16th-seeded Mavericks. Who moves on?
I think this is easy. The Warriors move on.
Yeah, come on. I'm not gonna waste my arguments now. It's the Warriors.
All right. 3-0 Warriors. They advance. To play the Warriors in that second round, we have the 8-seeded Memphis Grizzlies against the 9-seeded Miami Heat.
All right. Is Chris Bosh back for this, or?
This is what it would look like right now. So
Okay.
what you know right now, go with that.
I'm still gonna probably go with Miami. The Grizzlies are dealing with a ton of injuries. Conley, I think, has got the Achilles. Gasol's out the rest of the season.
They
Tough
just
time
cut
to be-
Mario Chalmers, right?
Yeah, he had an injury as well. He actually ruptured his Achilles. I think Mike Conley just has Achilles tendonitis.
Correct.
But I'm going with the Heat.
I'm sorry, you went Heat.
I'm going Heat. Yeah, Joe
Yeah, I'm
Johnson.
going Heat too. I think the Heat are actually kind of a scary team in the playoffs. I don't think it's a team that could make some noise and maybe upset a couple of teams, make it to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. I'm going to go Miami.
I'm not going against Miami here. 3-0 for Miami. Next game down, the 5th-seeded Oklahoma City Thunder against the 12th-seeded Indiana Pacers.
I'm going with OKC here. They're not going to get a first round knockdown in the first round, and the Pacers haven't looked that great today. Not mistaken, they lost to the Hawks today.
They lost by like 30 today.
Yeah, they got killed. Okay, just want to double check that, but yeah, I'm going with OKC.
Russell Westbrook versus 5 Pacers. I'm going Thunder.
3-0 Thunder. They move on. And to face the Thunder, we have a matchup between the 4th-seeded Toronto Raptors and the 13th-seeded Portland Trailblazers. Battle of the backcourts. Really, they played a really fun game the other night. But go ahead, continue. Make your pick.
This is definitely two of the top backcourts in the NBA. I think the Raptors just have a better overall team, so I think they'll advance.
Yeah, I got to go with the Raptors as well. I mean, there's something about Dame with the way he's been playing the last month or so since the All-Star game. Like, I want to go with him. Like, I want to believe that he could take it to the Final Four and go him against Steph in the Final Four, but it's not going to happen. It's the Raptors here.
Yeah, the thing is though, in a one-game scenario, Dame could drop 50 on you and single-handedly beat the Raptors. I know you guys have already gone 2-0 with the Raptors, so I'm just going to make it 3-0. Raptors advanced. Moving on to the other side of the bracket, the third-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers against the 14th-seeded Detroit Pistons.
Give me King James.
I mean, it has to be Cleveland. It has to be Cleveland. If it's a series, I mean, I'm still taking Cleveland, but I can see Detroit giving them a run. Detroit's a really tough team, and if this was like Detroit next year, the year after, maybe it's different, but I mean, as it stands right now, it's Cleveland. Even with all the problems they're having, they're at least getting to the second round.
All right, 3-0 Cleveland there. I'm with you guys. To face Cleveland in the second round, we have the 6th-seeded Los Angeles Clippers against the 11th-seeded Atlanta Hawks.
Wait, are we 3-0 all the way through so far?
For the most part, yes. It's about to get interesting soon, though. It's not going to be 3-0 the rest of the way. I can guarantee you that. But yes, Clippers, Hawks.
I'm going with the Clippers. Chris Paul that was going to win that point guard battle easily, so I'll stick with the Clip.
I shouldn't have asked that question just now because I want to go Hawks. I do. I think the Hawks are better coached.
So are you going with the Hawks? Is that
I'm going with the Hawks.
All right, I'm agreeing with Mike. I'm going with Atlanta. I think Atlanta can pull an upset here, especially the way the Clippers have been playing in the last week or so. They haven't been that good, and they still don't have Blake. So I'm going with Atlanta. So our first upset, a 6-11. So when you guys are filling out your actual NCAA brackets, look for that. We might get one this year. All right, moving down. 7th-seeded Boston Celtics against the 10th-seeded Charlotte Hornets.
Boston.
Yeah, I'm going with Boston as well.
Yeah.
Boston here too. 3-0 for Boston. And the final matchup of the first round, second seeded San Antonio Spurs against the 15th seeded. It's crazy that they're 15. Houston Rockets.
It is, isn't it?
Spurs.
Yeah, but no, it's Spurs.
Old man Riverwalk. San Antonio Spurs, 3-0, moving on. All right, moving to the second round. We have the 1-seeded Golden State Warriors against the 9th-seeded Miami Heat.
Warriors.
I'm going with the Warriors, but I feel like it could be a pretty good. It would be a good game. You know, I don't think they'd kill them.
Because it doesn't matter anymore, I'm just going to go with the Heat. Stay loyal here. But in all seriousness, Miami's played them twice this year, and they probably should have won at least one of them. They couldn't close at the end, which happens to just about every team that the Warriors play at the end. But Miami had them. They probably should have won that. I remember Hassan Whiteside blocked Draymond Green. I was like, yeah, good block. Show them 7-footers are not dinosaurs. And then Steph Curry catches the ball and hits like a 28-footer. And kind of.
You guys saw Steph last night, right?
Again, I did not watch that game.
They're playing. Well, first of all, here's my scenario in this game. Wade makes a big shot. Kind of does like a little flex at the Warriors bench like he did against the Mavericks in 2010.
Why you got to bring that up, Mike?
Hear me out? Steph gets mad. Steph gets real mad. Steph proceeds to hit the next 15 3-pointers. Last night they were playing the Suns. The Warriors are down to about 9 or 10 minutes left to go. Steph takes a 3-point shot. I believe, Nick, I think you retweeted off the OTG account. Steph takes the 3-pointer, and while it's not even hasn't even reached its apex yet in the arc, Steph turns around and starts running to the other end.
He's crazy.
Yeah, I did that the other day, but I missed.
How do you get over that? You're the other team.
That's true. No, but like I don't see why teams don't do this with Steph. I know we're kind of getting off topic here a little bit, but you gotta rough him up, man. Like Whiteside nailed him with the screen last time, and Steph Curry was down on the floor for a couple seconds. But when Steph drives in the lane, you have go for the ball, but you need to make hip-to-hip contact and knock him down. A lot of teams don't do that. I'm sure it's to protect their own players, but come on now. I know he's strong, but he's not bulky. I don't know if he can take the physical contact. And he doesn't drive often, but when he does, you got to take advantage of it. That's just my personal opinion.
So who was the guy in the last couple of years that would have done that? Would that have been Birdman? Would Birdman have been the one to rough him up?
Oh, no, Dexter Pittman. Are you crazy? Do you not remember Dexter Pittman elbowing or forearming Lance Stevenson in the throat? This was before Lance was a thing. This was like the Lance Chokegate thing, but this was back then. Which Miami player does it now? Probably be Udonis.
Okay, I can see it.
Yeah. I mean, it could work. Throw him off his game a little bit. I mean, you might make him mad and he could go for 15 straight threes, but
it's the risk you run. But you know what? He might go 15 for 16. If you don't hit him, he might go 14 for 16. Like, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna get shots. He's gonna get hit.
Incredible. What he's able to do is insane.
I'm sorry.
Right, so we have the Warriors moving on to the Final Four. In our second round matchup, the OKC Thunder, 5th-seeded OKC Thunder against the 4th-seeded Toronto Raptors.
It's still just Westbrook against the Raptors. Like Russell is just doing it all by himself. Maybe against the Warriors, they'll play 5-on-5. But right now, I'm taking the Thunder.
Yeah, I'm going with the Thunder as well.
All right, 3-0 Thunder, even though I think Toronto could win this. But I'm not betting against Russell and KD. Moving on to the other side of the bracket, 3rd-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers against the 11th-seeded Atlanta Hawks.
I'm going with the Cavs.
I'm going with the Cavs as well.
Yeah, we saw this last year. It's probably not going to work out for Atlanta. Cleveland 3-0 there. Cleveland's the 3rd team in our Final Four. Our final matchup with the Final Four berth on the line. The 7th-seeded Boston Celtics against the 2nd-seeded San Antonio Spurs.
Well, you got to go Spurs, right? I mean,
yeah.
Take the Spurs here.
It'd be nice to see the Celtics pull the upset, but you got to go with the Spurs.
Yeah, 3-0 Spurs. So our final four: Golden State Warriors, Oklahoma City Thunder, Cleveland Cavaliers, San Antonio Spurs. No real shockers there. Our first matchup: Golden State and OKC.
Now, I think these teams are going to meet in the playoffs this year.
I think they are too.
I think this is happening. It's for the record, Sunday, March 13th. I'm making the same pick today that I'm going to make in the playoffs. I'm taking the Thunder.
I can't go against the Warriors, so I'm sticking with Steph.
Screw you, Nick. OKC it is.
I knew you were gonna do that. I knew it. I knew
I'm
you.
with you, Mike. I think OKC can do it. They haven't done it the last 3 meetings. They've all been close. They've dominated a lot of those games, but
And they've blown it.
No,
Yeah, they
there
have
are
blown
two
it.
ways to look at it. They've been close. They're like almost there. You know, a couple
I
of
think
things go their way.
they're gonna break through in the playoffs and get the Warriors.
But the other way to look at it is like they've gotten close, but the Warriors own them.
That's
You
true. True that.
They
too.
always make that extra
I
play.
wouldn't bet my family's life on this one, but like I don't know, man. I think at some point in his career, Russell Westbrook is going to go Dirk Nowitzki in 2011. Sorry, Parth, and single-handedly carry Oklahoma City to a final, title, something like that, right? And maybe it's just one series. Maybe this is the series. But like, God, dude, Russell Westbrook had a 10-20 the other night. What is that?
Yeah, only he can do that. Only he can do that.
But then I'm the idiot that's picking the team that's going to go picking against the team that's going to win 73 games. So
Yeah, true that. All right, so Oklahoma City over Golden State there. So they are our first finalist. Sorry, Nick. The other Final Four matchup: Cleveland and San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Yeah, like I just was watching the Cavs the other day, and there's like this small part of me that wants the Cavs to win the championship this year. I don't know why, so I'm going with the Cavs.
All right, Nick. Once again, screw you.
Yeah.
San Antonio Spurs, and LeBron loses, and he comes back to Miami. Can we have that, please? Can we make
Keep
that
dreaming.
happen, LeBron? Can we
Keep
do
dreaming.
that? Can we do that? You can drive down in your Kia if you want to. Whatever you got to do, just make it to Miami.
Parth, I think we just became best friends.
We might have become best friends. Nick's the odd man out here. Sorry, buddy.
It's okay.
All right, our final matchup, 1 game, winner take all. OKC, San Antonio.
At least we'll agree on this, OKC.
Geez. There's only one man that can stop Russell Westbrook. It's Kawhi Leonard.
But who's going to stop Kevin Durant?
It's a good point. Oklahoma City.
All right, I was going to go with San Antonio here, but OKC wins out 2-1. So OKC is your OTG NBA/NCAA March Madness champion.
And let me just be the first to say there's no way this actually happens in the NBA playoffs. No chance.
Well, if you think it's a single game series, it actually could happen. I'll say that.
That's true.
Because, Kevin Durant and Westbrook, for 1 game, you might not be able to stop them and you lose.
They could drop 100 together.
Exactly.
Like,
That's
it's totally a possibility. Both could go for 50.
That'd
They
be
could both
awesome.
Golden State, and they could both drop 100 together, and they'd still lose by 30.
They could that could happen too, and also the Warriors could have an off shooting night like they did the other night. They ended up winning that game. I can't recall who they were playing, but no, it was against the Lakers. They lost. They could have a game like that in a 1-game scenario. So you never know, man. And this was obviously really fun to do. That would be interesting if the NBA did go top 16 like this. That's for another podcast, though.
I know, like, this was mentioned once about doing, like, a mid-season NBA tournament or something. I mean, there wasn't really any base. It was just, like, a rumor that someone asked Adam Silver that question. And, he's always saying that he'd consider everything. But I don't know if that would ever happen, but that'd be awesome.
He's probably like, yeah, I'll consider it, and then behind closed doors, he's like, this dumbass asked me this. Like, no, I don't think Silver actually says that, but you never know.
I think it was a Bill Simmons idea, actually.
Could be.
No, that was the exciting as hell tournament at the end of the season for the 8th playoff spot.
Like,
That'd be fun too. I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
Have the 8 versus 9 play in for kind of like what MLB does with the wild card.
It goes every team that doesn't make the playoffs. The top 17 make the playoffs. The 8th seed and on all play in a tournament. Winner gets the 8th seed and the first pick.
Damn,
I would actually be really down for that, but the only way I would be is if the season was shorter. You can't have 82 games and then have a little mini tournament.
Single elimination tournament at the end.
Right.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be as many games then.
Yeah.
I still think I personally think the season's too long anyway.
Well, it is. It is in all sports except for probably football.
Yeah, I think it might be too long in football, to be honest too. Like these dudes need to self-medicate. That's why there's a marijuana problem in the NFL because they're hurt.
I feel like the NFL would be better off giving the teams 2 bye weeks.
That's another good idea.
Not necessarily shortening the amount of games, but giving them more rest time. Especially, like honestly, Thursday night football screws up a lot of things.
Terrible.
Get rid of
It
Thursday.
kills the rest. So that's one issue, and they're worried about the money and not the health. So that's on them.
Yeah, the whole player safety thing is a total front. No one believes that shit anymore. All right, but we did that with our top 16. Oklahoma City came out on top. One team that we all thought would be at least in the top. I'm sorry, go ahead.
If we're going to jump right into this, I got to pee really quick.
All right, go for it.
2 seconds.
This is going long, but it's good.
Yeah, I think we should be fine. Because we started pretty late. It'll be over an hour, but hopefully not like too much. I had a feeling OKC was going to win that tournament.
Ah, darn! I should have picked the Warriors against OKC. It would have led perfectly into the Saturday night's matchup. Damn, I didn't think about that.
So I walked away. I hear you guys say this is long, this is good.
Yeah.
So longer is good.
Yeah, no, it's not a big deal. That's long.
All right, good.
This feels like a longer podcast, but it's okay because it's good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's going well.
Yeah, and I've said the Parth, we started later than we didn't start on time, so.
Now I would, in all fairness, I don't think I would have picked the Thunder if I was going to take the Thunder too. I can't see them actually. Maybe they could. That's weird though. I just didn't expect you to agree with me on that one.
I surprise a lot of people sometimes, but
there we go.
So,
all right, whatever you guys want to keep going.
I'm going to just introduce the Bulls now and just let you take over. If that's cool, Mike?
I black out, and then I stop talking, and then I just hope it sounded good.
All right, so I'll reintroduce it and just let you take the reins, Mike. So we just did our NBA NCAA bracket. Oklahoma City was the champion. And one notable omission from our top 16, who we all thought would be at least in the top 16 records in the NBA, were the Chicago Bulls. And what better time to talk about the Bulls when we have Mike Ricci on. So Mike, you are our resident Bulls expert. What the hell is going on in Chicago?
Well, I mean, you want the long answer or the short answer? The short answer
we want the right answer. What is going on?
A little bit. I'll give you both then. The short answer is I just don't think the team is very good at the sport of basketball. The long answer is, God, I mean, where do you even start? I mean, they made their injury problems, first of all. Gasol's going to miss some significant time. Rose has missed his time. Butler's missed his time. Mirotic just continuing the long-standing tradition of the Chicago Bulls training staff, bringing in somebody for a minor procedure and then ended up nearly killing him, which they did well. Day have a spinal tap. And Nikola Mirotic went for an appendicitis and somehow ended up losing 30 pounds or whatever. I don't know what's wrong with this team. I mean, I really don't know. I just don't think they're a good basketball team. You can point the finger if you want to at Fred Hoiberg. Maybe he's not a good coach. I don't think that's. I think Hoiberg's a fine coach. I don't think he's as good as Thibodeau was. I don't think he's as good as, other really good coaches in the NBA. He's still trying to figure out what he is, but like, the problem is when E'Twaun Moore is one of the brightest spots on the team this year. E'Twaun Moore is going to get himself paid, gentlemen. This offseason, he's going to make a lot of money as maybe a starting point guard, but definitely a backup somewhere in the NBA. He's gonna make some really good money. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a combination of the team got too old, and the Gar Forman, John Paxson front office overestimated how good this team was, especially at the trade deadline. At the trade deadline, they had a chance to supposedly trade Pau Gasol for Ben McLemore and Kosta Koufis. And Kosta Koufis has been just fine in the NBA. Like he's been a very average NBA player, and Ben McLemore has been, I guess, a bit of a disappointment based on where teams drafted him. But you kind of want to hit the reset button. You're either going to lose Pau Gasol. I thought they were going to lose Pau Gasol in the offseason for free agency for free, so why not get rid of him? But then the day after they don't trade him, Jerry Reinsdorf, the Bulls owner, comes out and says, well, we'd like to work out a long-term deal with Pau Gasol, who's 36, by the way. And, yeah, he's been playing really, really well. He's averaging 17 points a game. He's averaging, 11 rebounds a game. He's hurt now, but, like, those are the best stats we've ever seen a 36-year-old put up. You don't sign a 36-year-old to a long-term extension unless you're the San Antonio Spurs and it's Tim Duncan, because he's legacy. And the part that worries me is that if Gasol's putting up the best numbers we've ever seen from a 36-year-old, at some point it's going to careen into the mountain, and he's going to become a 37-year-old. He's going to stop being, the productive NBA player that he is now. So I don't know what's wrong with the Bulls. I feel like they don't have a direction. Are they a good team? Are they a bad team? I feel like they should, consider tanking the rest of the season. Like, they're not in the playoffs. I mean, as a fan, I would like to see them play Cleveland in the first round. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But at the same time, get yourself in the lottery. It's not a really good draft necessarily, but like, if you can find a way to, get a decent pick in the draft this year, get a guy like Dragon Bender or Chris Dunn, if Derrick Rose really wants to, look at free agency in a year, or Buddy Hield from Oklahoma, who I'm a huge fan of, maybe that's the best way to go. I'm worried that the Bulls are going to sneak into the playoffs this year as an 8th seed or a 7th seed, and they're going to get swept out, or they're going to lose in 4 games or in 5 games. And, what was this all for? It's just a poorly run franchise, and I don't see it changing. I think the Bulls are still a year or two away from really bottoming out, and I think they're in about as bad of a position as any franchise in the NBA long term, if that makes sense. I mean, it's doom and gloom, it's bleak, but I would take being a fan of just about any other team right now than the Bulls, because they don't even realize that they're a bad team, I feel like.
Yeah, I guess they're really in a tough spot. Just like a year ago, they were competing with the Cavs, and we thought possibly they could win that series, but obviously they didn't. And now they might not even make the playoffs this season. So you kind of want them to just restart.
I mean, what do you guys think? Like, I know it's.
Well, I think the only player really on the team that you really, Jimmy Butler, you definitely want to keep. I mean, you could move Derrick Rose, like you said. The injuries are the problem. Gasol, like you said, he's only getting older. I think Bobby Portis has had some nice moments rookie year. I know you like him.
I do.
And McDermott has had, he got a little bit more confident than he was previously. So I think that helps going forward. Those, I guess, are the guys you want to keep. I know they're not really interested in keeping Snell long term either.
Look, I'm fine keeping Rose even long term. If you can sign for an affordable deal, like Derrick Rose is about to reach the ceiling of Derrick Rose. He'll never be as good as he was when he won the MVP in 2011, but like he can still be one of the best, offensive, explosive, point guards in the NBA. Like there's no reason he can't do that. He can still blow by anybody in the NBA. On any given play. When they played the Spurs here, he blew by Kawhi a few times. And Kawhi's the best on-the-ball perimeter defender in the NBA, probably the best since Pippen. So Rose still has that ability. I just don't know that he's somebody that is going to take less than what he could get. Brooklyn is a team that why wouldn't Brooklyn throw a max offer at him? I don't think the Bulls are going to offer him a max deal. So ultimately, I think the Derrick Rose Chicago Bulls marriage is going to end poorly.
And
I just don't know. I feel like they've made mistakes leading up to this year that even this year, every worst case scenario has kind of unfolded the way that, you hoped it wouldn't. And now the Bulls are screwed. Like I said, they're going to be just good enough to be slightly relevant over the next year or two, and they're not going to bottom out. It's purgatory in the NBA. It's the worst spot you can be, being like the 9th or 10th best team in your conference.
Yeah, definitely been there before.
I don't have anything to add. I think Mike just nailed it. I don't know what's going on with the Bulls either.
And I feel bad because the last time the Bulls had a Hall of Fame level head coach, because I do believe Tom Thibodeau will eventually be in the NBA Hall of Fame. He may not be in there as a head coach, but he'll be in there as assistant coach with the way he revolutionized defense in the NBA, from 2000 or mid 90s even on. But the last time was Phil Jackson. They got rid of Phil Jackson before they should have. And they brought in the head coach from Iowa State, Tim Floyd. Then they have Tom Thibodeau. They get rid of him. They bring in the head coach from Iowa State. I'm just hoping. I'm hoping a few things. I'm hoping, number one, that Fred Hoiberg's better than Tim Floyd, which I think he will be. I'm hoping the Bulls don't somehow draft Marcus Fizer in this upcoming draft. And I'm hoping that there's no Eddie Curry in this upcoming draft. So I don't know. It's a tough time to be a Bulls fan, but I made a commitment to myself in 1998 that no matter how bad the Bulls get, I got to watch them win 6 titles. I will never bitch about being a Bulls fan.
Yeah,
I'm playing with house money as an NBA.
Exactly. That's a good way to look at it too. Just same thing for Spurs fans. I never want to hear them complain. The last 20 years or so, they've had a great team to watch.
And it's not going to change.
Historic team in the last 20 years. But that's a perfect segue. Speaking of the Spurs, we don't have an actual games of the week. There's no article, which I'm sure everyone's really excited about. No one ever reads it. Thanks, guys. But, no article today, but we do have one game of the week. I know majority of people will be watching March Madness, but there is this one game that you should definitely tune into. Saturday the 19th, Warriors at Spurs. It's at 8:30 on ABC. So, Mike, we usually do picks for these games, so you're going to be our guest picker for the week. And just going in, the guest pick /John/me, we are 51-36. And Nick is 42-45. Nick had a really good week last week, 5-0. Guest pickers /John/me were 2-3 last week. So Mike, Dubs or Spurs?
Dubs, and I'll tell you why. Or are we not telling you why, or
No, you can tell me why.
Popovich is going to rest some people.
You think he'll do that to give a big middle finger to the league on a Saturday primetime game on ABC?
It's not a middle finger to the league so much as it's a middle finger to Kerr and the Warriors. It's you're not going to see our team at full strength until the playoffs.
Fair point.
You know, and that's years ago. You know, when the Spurs, you know, first did that, where they rested everybody on their team against the Heat one night, and
They almost won that game.
they almost won that game. You're right, but like, I didn't think the Spurs were going to make the finals that year. But then I saw the beauty and I saw the genius of what Popovich was trying to do, and I get it now. Like, don't show them what you have, especially a team like the Warriors, who's an historically wonderful team. Like, shit, give them a little something to make them second guess. You know, going into the playoffs. Maybe Kawhi sits next week. Who cares about a home court advantage? Who cares about a home court streak of 50 games? You know, it's all about winning that sixth ring.
Yeah, I think at this point, between these two teams, you can look at it either way. You could say home court it matters because these teams are so good that you'd want that seventh game at home. But then you could also say, well, they're both good enough to win on the road. So does it really matter? So, you know, you could go both ways on this. Nick, who do you have winning?
I think I'm gonna go with the Warriors. I like what Mike said. I think they could definitely rest somebody, but I even think if they're full strength that the Warriors would probably win this game.
Fair point. I can't really argue with either one. I'm personally going to go with the Spurs, but after what Mike said, I don't feel confident about my pick at all. So I'm just going to mention it, but we're not even going to count it. That's the key.
I mean, if both teams are at full strength, I'll take, you know. Oh man, I'm still taking the Warriors. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you go
Okay,
against them unless you're doing a 16-team March Madness style one-game playoff hypothetical?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to bet against Steph Curry.
Yeah.
He's going to come up with that big shot.
Now, I always tell my friends when we start talking about Derrick Rose or LeBron comes up, I tell them how I get PTSD from in the 2011 playoffs in it was Game 5, I believe, when the Heat put the Bulls away in the Eastern Conference Finals. Derrick Rose was LeBron just said, you know, forget this, I'm guarding Rose, and LeBron turned into a blanket, and it just coated Derrick Rose, and I've still never seen another player get guarded as well as LeBron guarded Derrick Rose that night. Parth, I'm sure you remember this differently than I do. It wasn't terrible for you to watch. I want to see Kawhi try and do that to Steph.
I think he can do it. It's a little bit difficult because I feel like Steph is a little more.
Well, Steph's better than Rose. You can just say that. I mean, nobody's going to argue with you on that. Like,
What'd you just say, Mike?
Steph's better than Rose. Every possible way. Like, Kawhi might be a better defender than LeBron was at that time, but like, Steph's more explosive than Rose was. You know, like.
I think the thing with guarding Steph is that their team is so complete that he can play on ball, he can play off ball, he can do that as a shooter. So you can't really have a mental lapse for even just a second with Steph. It's mentally draining, it's physically draining, chasing him around screens, and then being put into ball screens all the time. He only needs a split second to shoot. He can get to where he wants on the court because he can handle the ball. It's not all athleticism with him. He has the ball handling ability to get to where he wants. Like with Rose, I never really thought, like, Rose can definitely handle the ball, but I think it's more athleticism mixed with ball handling.
Rose needed the 15 feet around the basket to get his points. He never had the, you know.
Yeah, true, very true.
I mean, Steph shoots from 35 feet, and he hits it. It's not fair.
Yeah. It's a tough matchup for anyone, especially with the rules the way they are. But I think if you had to pick one person to do it, it's Kawhi.
And the Warriors make it so hard, like you said, Parth. They just have so many screens, and the whole team just tries to get Steph open. And then if you lean off Steph maybe, or you give him too much attention, there's another guy who's going to kill you. You know what I mean?
Third, fourth, fifth option kills everybody else.
So, and they got another lethal shooter on the team. So it's just like so hard to defend them as a team, and then you throw in Steph. It's crazy.
I was having an argument with a friend of mine, and not to extend an already long podcast any longer, but real quick. But there's a shirt that's floating around the interwebs about it was Ricky Rubio, Johnny Flynn, Steph Curry. It was like
that's a great shirt.
You've
Great
seen
shirt.
that, right?
Yeah, awesome.
I feel like the history's not being kind to the Timberwolves in this regard, because Steph Curry probably still has a wonderful career, still has an amazing career, maybe even a Hall of Fame career if he goes to the Timberwolves. But he doesn't have the success that he has with the Golden State Warriors if he's with the Timberwolves. Because like every single thing that happened to Steph Curry's career, from Draymond Green to Klay Thompson to Andrew Bogut, like every player that's on this team is the perfect complement to the exact game that Steph Curry has. So even if the Timberwolves ended up passing on Johnny Flynn for Steph Curry, it never achieves this greatness that we're seeing right now. And I think that's the thing. It's like we're seeing a once in a, not even once in a generation talent, but like we're seeing like a 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000, odds of a team putting the right players around that talent.
Right. Real quick, I just want to add to that before we get out of here. But you're 100% right, and I believe the word that I heard around the time when they traded for Bogut was no one was really sold on Steph because of the ankle injuries, because of those issues, which allowed him to get that $11 million per year contract, which then the Warriors went on a crazy streak with drafting the right people, bringing in the correct people because they had the flexibility to do so. But during that Bogut trade, the Milwaukee Bucks had the option to go with either Monte or Steph, and they chose Monte. So I mean, just by Golden State offering Steph Curry up before he becomes the player that he is today, just goes to show you it wasn't quite the sure bet that everyone now thinks it was back then. So
there was a moment, I spoke to. I might as well throw this onto a podcast, and now it's out there, and people can hold me to it. I may or may not have a basketball movies podcast coming out at some point in time with a friend of mine who used to cover the NBA draft here in the Twin Cities, and he was he reminded me over and over again that Del Curry, Steph's dad, came out with a list of teams that Steph wasn't going to play for, and the Timberwolves were one of those teams. He also refused to work out as a point guard, which is what the Timberwolves were looking for. Like, there were a lot of uncertainties that went into it. And I feel like the fact that the Wolves get beat up for Johnny Flynn as much as they do is unfair, considering Thabit went number 2, and Thabit has been just as good of a pro as Johnny Flynn was. Hell, Johnny Flynn was the second leading scorer among rookies that first year. He scored 50. He was a 15-point-a-game scorer for the Timberwolves in his rookie year. He was just in the worst offense when Rambis came in. Like, it was just a bad fit for, Johnny Flynn. But yet we remember him until he got injured his second year. We remember him as being this awful bust that had no business being drafted before Curry. And granted, Curry should have been taken before him, but like Thabit was a bigger bust.
Very true. I mean, and like you said, the ankles at one point were a major concern for Steph Curry. And I think it also helps that he got Steve Kerr, I think, helped his game a little bit too. Great coaching for him. And then, like you guys mentioned, all the players set him up for a perfect success. Not to say he's not a crazy talented player, but it helps to be in the right situation.
We'll switch him with Rubio. Put Steph in Minnesota, with the team he has around him now. Not coming off an NBA championship, but with the mentality he had before last season. Like, he's not going to succeed the way he did because of the guys around him. Like, they just happen to put the perfect mixture of guys around him.
right, it's the perfect storm. He helps his supporting cast just as much as the supporting cast helps him, which doesn't make him any lesser of a player. It makes him better. Like, it's what you want as a team. It's perfect cohesion. It's the perfect storm in a sense what the Warriors have. And with that, Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
If you guys enjoyed the podcast, Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to share it, retweet it, whatever you have to do. If you didn't enjoy the podcast, do the same thing so more people can hate on it as well. It's a win-win here. Just retweet, just share.
Go to Mike Ricci 5 on Twitter and just send me all of your vitriol, all of your hate. Because I don't get enough hate mail. I don't. I kind of want that.
Yeah, send all your hate mail to Mike. Don't send any to me, please. Just
Thank you.
If you have something to send to me, just send it to Mike. He'll forward it to me, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah, but really, Mike, thanks for joining us. It's been really fun.
It's been a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much.
And that wraps it up. Thank you, guys. Talk to you next week.